the agent's contract with their broker, perhaps 50% to a new agent or 70% to an experienced agent. Since the value of the property has gone up so much, it's harder to get sellers to pay 6%. These days, 5% would be more like it. The listing agent then negotiates with the sellers how much of the 5% will go to the listing broker and how much to the selling broker. Down the middle is common, with each side getting 2.5%. If I were listing a property, I would insist on 3% to the selling broker and 2% to the listing broker. A selling agent may not favor a listing that only pays 2.5% to the selling agent when most other properties pay 3%. Note that the selling broker is a sub-agent of the listing broker. Let's say that the buyer says to the selling agent, "Make them an offer of $300,000, but if they don't accept that, I'll go to $319,000. That's a bit of a sticky wicket, as the English say, because the selling broker and the agent have a fiduciary relationship with the seller, and they would be obligated to reveal what the buyer told them. All this inevitably brings up the question, for whom is the agent working, the seller or the buyer? A lawyer would give you an involved answer to this, but from my experience of 30 years as a real estate broker, the practical answer is neither one. Both the listing agent and the selling agent are working for themselves, doing everything they can to put the deal together. Let's talk about the pros and cons of dealing with a FSBO, the listing agent or the selling agent. First, consider why the seller is trying to sell his home himself. He obviously is trying to evade having to pay commission. Perhaps he's sold homes before and loves going head to toe with an aggressive buyer. But there are other reasons. How much does he owe on the property? He may be in so much debt that he cannot afford to pay an agent. Making an offer through a listing agent has its good points and bad points. Pros? They know the sellers well, so they understand why they are selling. They know the property well and can give you valuable information about the neighborhood and who lives there. If you make an offer through the listing agent, then you have both sides being represented by one agent. Cons: they won't like taking a low offer to the sellers because they want to defend the validity of the listing price. They tend to defend the sellers because they will continue to represent them. The selling agent wants to impress the seller in case the listing expires and they can get it, but their ongoing relationship is with the buyer, that's you, not the seller. Making an offer through a selling agent also has its pros and cons. Pros: an agent who is only representing the buyer is usually more willing to take a low offer because they're not bound to the listing price the way the listing agent is. It's important that you understand the dynamics of who's doing what to whom when deciding whether to negotiate directly with the seller in the case of a for sale by owner. Ask the listing agent to present an offer for you or use the selling agent. Next, we'll get into how to use negotiating gambits to get your offer accepted. If you're buying a FSBO, you will use these gambits yourself. If you're working with a listing agent or a selling agent, you'll want to explain your negotiating strategy to them and teach them how to use these gambits. Let's start with beginning negotiating gambits. A gambit is a chess term that means any maneuver for advantage. Chess players use beginning gambits to get the game started, middle gambits to keep up the momentum, and ending gambits when they get ready to checkmate the other player, or in business parlance, put the deal together. Chess players who are purists will argue that the word gambit involves the willingness to take a risk and lose a piece, so it only applies to the opening moves when pawns may be sacrificed. In negotiating, we use the broader sense of beginning, middle, and ending gambits. I'll start by teaching you the gambits that you use in the early stages of the negotiation to be sure that you're setting it up for a successful conclusion. Rule 1. Never say yes to the first offer. The reason that you should never say yes to the first offer or counteroffer is that it automatically triggers two thoughts in the person's mind. Let's say that you are thinking of buying a home in your neighborhood. That would be your dream home. The owners are trying to sell it for themselves, and they're asking $300,000. That is such a terrific price on a perfect home for you that you can't wait to get down there and snap it up before somebody else beats you to it. On the way there, you start thinking that it would be a mistake.